It's more than just cryptocurrency that started off red. In the mining sector, something that is desperately needed, like we talked about yesterday. My fear yesterday was a lot of people were going to start buying into the miners, and then they were going to walk right into that 10 to 15 or even 20% correction that we are overdue for in the mining sector. So seeing it pull back some up as much as down 8%, I believe it was the high peak that I seen. It's much needed. Just like in crypto, we were way too top heavy. It's clearing out. And the main thing from yesterday to today is we get a little more clarity of what's going on within this pattern. We set this up yesterday and talked about 228. If that broke down, 219 would be the next initial target. And we went down to 219 last night. We had it set up like that with 219 under here. I don't know where it went. We had 245. Then if 228 broke, 219 was that initial move down. It might be on a different chart. But I know we wrote it out yesterday during the, I think it was the second live. But right now we're firmly in between the distribution box that I like to have out here in discovery zone, but we're pushed below the demand zone now. So we're right in the middle of the consolidation here. Like, what do we do next? How did we approach this? So it's a continued, the pain. We're continuing to feel the pain we talked about yesterday. Before we can get into November, it's going to be a lot of pain. And we've been going through a lot of pain. And anybody asking about dollar cost averaging, I can't possibly answer that for you. Again, you're asking me to dollar cost average when you're not dollar cost averaging at this point of the pattern. Because you're asking me, should you buy it here? But if you're all about, and I'm not hating on anybody saying it, but if you're all about dollar cost averaging, where were you at on the wick down? There was plenty of time on this pull up before it was at these prices to buy this wick pull up. So if you're asking me in any asset of your own, not just XRP, but should you be dollar cost averaging in, were you buying that big wick down? If not, are you just buying and dollar cost averaging just because? Is there a reason behind it? Do you have some kind of long-term plan with the asset, or are you just buying dollar cost average because it's come down in the last few days just because you see some red? Like, I can't possibly answer the should I dollar cost average here. There's so many variables that go into it. Did you buy? And I know this is on, look at that wick was 71% on Binance. I'm not saying to buy that 71%, but did you buy it somewhere around $1.40? Like 48% down, and now starting to dollar cost average. So the ones who say it's not a bad spot to dollar cost average, again, it's all about perspective. Because you could be walking into a scenario right now, and let's go to a different one where it didn't go down as far as Binance. But again, you could be walking, and this only came down to $1.59. But right now you're walking into a scenario where it's pumped 42% in a week. Whether you want to admit it or not, that's how it acts. Now, if you're basing it off of a schematic, like the Elliott wave or the Wyckoff accumulation, or trying to find the liquidation zones and or the accumulation zones that end up piling up, might not be a bad time. And now we have the 219. When we did this yesterday like this, we put this out and said, that's how you can get the 219. Then we had 228, 219, and I had it set up just like this. But I think not to, and you can go back and watch the live last night when we were doing this in real time, because it was speculation. And then if it broke down below this, there's really no other way to look at this, because you're going to extend too far. And then it's going to come down to, oh, now we got to start breaking down the levels. Then it'll put you back, in my opinion, if this doesn't hold, you should come down to that $1.77 to $1.82 area. Just my opinion. Nobody else's. That's just my opinion. And Bitcoin, it still suggests if we were to break and again, it's an if, it's a big if. The farther down we go, the more of a chance this becomes a reality. It all comes down to the rising wedge. That rising wedge is unavoidable, but we don't know if it expands out. But if this is breaking down, horrible sign. You know, it's a horrible sign. And we speculated that maybe you would end up getting something like this in the wider range, and it'd be a further consolidation, and that 92K would just continue it. But I mean, That's a big, big steep drop. And like, let's just say if this scenario and we were done with the bull season, which I argue and I put it in my title, or I put it in my, not my title, my notes this morning, and I put it in Telegram, and then I shared it on Facebook as well. So if you're not on Facebook, please follow Facebook for these. I can do it on just by writing. I share a lot of stuff all the time. My mind's always going crazy in ways trying to find stuff. So I put down about this morning, but one of the key things I put, and where was it at? It was down here. So all of my stuff about what I said about what's going on and yada, yada, yada. I said this observation, so it was basically about how we haven't hit the bottom. And it's let me just read, you can read through this on Facebook, but my question that I asked was, how can we definitively declare the conclusion of an alt season and the establishment of a market peak if a significant recovery from the bottom has not been observed? Please consider this question thoughtfully. How can we say that we had a alt season top when we never broke the bottom? And there's a lot of information you can find on here. I put so much shit out here. They don't recommend my page, so it's astounding that ever since I started putting more post messages and things like that, been doing pretty well since I switched the way I do things on Facebook, because I didn't really do anything except share my content from YouTube. But now I started to do its own stuff, and it's actually picked up pretty substantially in views. I'm getting more views on Facebook than YouTube, which is not a surprise, because there's a bigger, wider pool to pull from on Facebook. That's the reasoning. So with the evidence in front of us, Bitcoin showed us something like this. And this goes much farther. This is almost like, if you want to look at this, here, let me circle this. Because we already know about the rising wedge. If that breaks down, it's 92K. Now we've got to see the consolidation that can either hold it or level us down. Like, we've been talking about that rising wedge since it broke down, in my opinion, and back tested at 126. Now, the first area it could have held is where we've held. That's the first area. The only problem is if you come past this area now, you've used up all of your leverage now, so to say. You could pull yourself a little bit, but you really can't. There's not much more room to come through here, because even if you look at it something like this, with the emergence of you can't even really come any farther. You've basically used all of your collateral damage. Let's just put it that way. We've used all of our collateral damage, and if we come farther, there's no other way. I don't want to keep showing the rising wedge. I want to show the range that it's in now, because we already know the target, 92K. Out of the rising wedge. So now we got to figure out the consolidation that could hold it over the top. And we're running out of steam here is the problem. And we've already hit my target that I thought we were going to hit forming this pattern. So I called for a significant downturn. You know, I was going to argue the fact that when I don't wear a hat, it's bear. But when I went back and watched a few of the other lives, in the recent days, every time I had a hat on, the market started pumping. Every time I had my hat off, the market was dumping, even after, significant ways, even if it was green. So I think there's more truth to that, honestly. Sean Crothers said, Tom, I took profits. I'm going to pay off my house like you did. It feels good. The cash is headed my way, and XRP has been good to me. Go Epic. Oh, man, see, that is the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Paying off your house, not having that note, Sean, and my main man from Massachusetts. I'm proud of you. He killed it in this bull market. The ones that actually had a bull market. Like, he crushed it in XRP. In the earlier days of the bull market, he crushed Turbo before this big rally. Oh, man. And Epic, I think Epic is definitely... I really do think Epic is a great way to look. But remember what we talked about yesterday. We were coming down, and that first target was 87 cent area, which we're at right now. Now, Sean, pay attention. The weekly's coming down very hard. If this breaks, we should fill out this exhaustion wick and probably make a low at 1647 on the bottom of that channel. That's just my opinion. So if we broke 87, that would be the time to take profits out. If you had something from, I know, if you have profits, if you made 20, whatever the case may be, if you want to sell some stuff out, would be the time. But let it break that area because we want to make sure it's coming. Maine. Why did I say Massachusetts? My main man from Maine. I have no idea why I said Massachusetts. That might be the first time I ever said it in the wrong way. But Maine. What can I say, Sean? My brain's working in 130 different directions right now. But thank you for being a very trusted mod in here as well. But these are we're coming down to the structural points now where if we break these, this is a good opportunity to step to the side on everything and let this wick exhaustion happen. And then you work it through the weekly and the monthly. See, the monthly, if this happens and we come down, it's going to clear it out to extreme levels. I love when it's in neutral, when the weekly's way oversold, because I know a relief rally's got to be close. Now, the other part of this is there's a lot of people in commodities, too, asking me, do I take profits? Do I sell out? What do I do? We don't know. You can take profits. You can do exactly that because it went up so far. But generally, after a big dump out, we're going to have some kind of return rally. Maybe it'll come down farther still. Looks like we're back testing, possibly coming back down to back test structures. So after getting the resistance up here, maybe you sell out and buy it back if it comes to 730. Maybe you can do that. Me personally, that's not the approach that I'm taking yet. I want to see what happens. This was a triple hit up here. And this pattern has been, it's constricting, but it still has time if it comes way back down. So it's an honest question. It's like I said yesterday. This would be somebody's going to enter it because of how parabolic we're going. And then all of a sudden they're going to find themselves 10 to 20% down in a day. And they're going to say, this is all a pile of shit and I'm done before they even got started. So we have to see. We have to see exactly what kind of return back test we have now. I was pretty close to that initial move out on silver where I thought it was going to peak up to 55.64. And now we have to see. You very well can sell every single one of these now with substantial profit. Obviously, you take the tax hit. So it's one of those things. But do you think gold and silver's done running? Do you think with earnings coming up that these are done? I don't personally think they're done. But yeah, there's a substantial amount of risk to buy it when they're so overinflated at this point because they've already come way up. This is likely back testing the move. We've got earnings coming in this November into December for September, and the pricing is way up right now on gold and silver. So I don't think that we're just done, but I also like to be like, hey, if you're trying to buy these things, this may not be the right, like I said yesterday, not exactly the right time. You can look at Dolly Varden because in time that 650 should be it should be hit, but it's not going to run by itself. And we were way overinflated again. Nothing can ignore it. Now, could we come back down and test the lows from this rally? That's the scary proposition. That's the scary proposition of all of this. Like, if the rally's over and we're flipping phases, now flipping from commodities, and now you could so much say, like, hey, maybe we're having that flip now into risk on. But you should get a retest back to the top side at some point. I don't think gold is just done. I just think it's retesting now that 4,115. We've drawn this out. So we could come into a level of consolidation here. It's needed. But now if it bounces off of 4,115, I really don't know what to believe if it stays that high. Because I thought it needed to come back down after it broke out. I thought, hey, the best thing we could do here is have this come and retest this uptrend. Maybe it is 35.91. Maybe it's the lower boundaries, but if it retests a higher boundary, we're gonna have an issue because we're gonna just. But then again, we're drying up with the. Things are going insane. So, proceed with caution. Pan America Silver down 7%. It seems like a steal. It's at 39. We're buying it at 18. So yeah, as much as it looks like a good deal, this is one of those things. Are you buying a falling sword? Because we're gonna get retests on the way back down too to the top side. So, but don't sell the red because every drop you have, you're gonna retest the drop points at some level. So that's what I'm saying. Just pay attention to what's happening. We needed a significant dump off. It could not just go straight up. If it did, it was just gonna be done. But the US dollar isn't getting any better. Our inflation's getting worse. We're going to be doing another rate cut at the end of the month. This is almost by design. This is happening now. So I think we're right where we need to be. Back so over. Or so. Gold could just be testing the 5-day moving average. Hasn't done it in a week. Hasn't tested the 10-day in a month. I know, but that was definitely euphoric. So that's exactly it. Scotty, you can absolutely sell spot at a loss and tax harvest, then rebuy. Yeah, but if you tax harvest, you can't buy within the 30 days. If you buy within 30 days, they just call it a wash sale. If you're not familiar with it, familiarize yourself. Because if you sell it now and you buy it back within 30 days, even if it's a minor, it's going to show right next to it a W, and it's not going to let you wash those losses. So there is a strict stipulation they put into the markets. Even crypto has that same basic principle. Look at where USD was and where your XRP was. Oh, I need to look in the Telegram. Hold on. I was just reading through all the stuff. But yeah, right now it's one of those times. Like the stock market's so overinflated too, which is not the greatest thing ever. Yes, I do remember those targets. Scotty said, look at where USDT was and where XRP was. I think we're in a great spot. No need to panic. I sell XRP for what? No. Yeah, that's exactly it. But when I was talking about selling, I was talking about the miners. But I was saying, like, people do different things. People like to do different things. So, I mean, it very well could fall out of that head and shoulders, the 213 range. That would make sense to fall into that area. It would. I see that one. Where's the USDT one? No, I don't disagree that this can happen. It's just a matter of, are we going to hold it at these levels? I think the bigger question is that. Oh, Nick's thread for the USDT. Okay, perfect. And that's I love the USDT dominance chart too, because the dominance chart, when more money's heading back into the stable, we're not pumping much, and it's gone up substantially too. Diggers, Tom, did you ever get my email? No, I did not. There's no email from you. Where's my phone? Let me go find it. You see my phone, Julie?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. No, I did not. I received a nice message from Kat if she's watching, but I did not. But no, that inverse head and shoulders is something. It's hitting its rejection point again, but if it breaks out of that area, it's going to cause more pain for the pump too, going into November. Where would I buy XRP? I mean, a good place to start, and then you could have did whatever, would have been on that wick exhaustion, but it's so far out of my range right now that, honestly, all of this is all speculative right now, because if we break through and we end up falling out of all of this, it's in a big way. It's a big problem. If you don't break to the top side and end up pushing up here for some exhaustion towards $3, I mean, we're going to find ourselves in a very quick fashion coming all the way back down near this. I still think that $1.78 to $1.82 is on. It's not only expected if we were to break down, I think it would fall right through that area by a little bit. And some of these have bigger wick exhaustions, but not all of them. Some of them are, like Binance is down to 80 cents. Is Binance going to let that happen again? Or 78 cents? You know, if that's the case, and maybe that's... I just know if this doesn't hold out and we make a new low now, and we break down a certain percentage drop here because we're going to break through a key level. If we get through that level, what comes after that, there's no point of even holding anything. I'm just being honest. There would be no reason to hold any crypto. Because if it ended up falling through, it doesn't matter if you bought it at 34 cents, you'd still be down 2/3. If this worst case, if this whole market ends and we don't have alt season this time, we're going into the most severe crypto winter that may never come out of. And sure, you might get a 10x on something, but it might be XRP going from 7 cents to 70 cents. I'm serious. Like, if this doesn't pan out, there's so much time. I've been warning about this for years, especially now with Michael Saylor and all these institutions that have all this topside liquidity, and they're mortgaging their businesses, their companies, taking out money from the bank, and they're staying ahead because the price is appreciating. What happens when we get to 72K or 80K when Michael Saylor, his average is creeping up to like 70 something, maybe 80K now, because he keeps buying the top. So once that happens, we're going to get huge margin calls for these guys. The banks are going to call and say, hey, you're a risk, there's too much risk here. We're calling your loan, buddy. He's got billions. What's the domino effect of that? So I have that moment where it's like, okay, we're in some shit, to where it don't matter where you buy it, you're screwed. It's going to fall 9/10. Even if you bought it in the last bear market, for some that have come out, it'll be lower. A failed parabolic push leads you to the lowest lows of all times if this fails. I hate to break it to everybody, but we're going to go to levels we haven't, not all-time lows, but XRP would revisit the 2020 low, which we haven't done since 2020 when we dropped out. So we're in a very interesting dilemma here. It's the has and the has-nots, because if we go down the has-not road, everything's 9/10 cheaper. Everything. So if you own, let's put an example. If you own XTC at 5.6, it'd be 0.05. So but there's got to be a deeper reason why all these institutions are buying now, unless it's like we've said, but I still think it's early. I think the end of 28 is when they collapse the system with all this useless capital that got pushed into it with crypto. It would feel more like a win for all these situations if they pumped it in an alt season, because then everybody's going to go hysterical. But they won't even know for the first 50%, I'm telling you. And I know I got the right history again, because on a 65 to 70% drop, 99% of retail stood there and said, oh my God, I'm too fearful to do anything. And then they just sold what they had at the bottom of the 60% drop. I've seen it time and time again through the liquidity form. You know, when you see the buy and sell orders, it's like, why were so many people selling it at $1.39, $1.57, and nobody's buying it back up? Like, there were some orders, but most of the orders were panic, and you could see how much people were losing, up to 80 something percent in spot from what they were holding. And what, you're down 80%? You're only, why would you even sell? You got $2 out of every 10. That's the worst thing you could do. And even on that rebound, it basically got back to within 10 to 15% of that drop point. That's the point. So now everybody this morning is going to look at commodities and, oh my God, we're down fucking 7, 8, 9, 10, 15. Well, I guess there's no 15 like crypto. Not yet. But they're not going to wait for the revisit of the high point. We need validation now. So, I mean, if I don't think gold and silver is just done. I really don't. The cup and handle on silver leads you out to $95. So we get moments like this on the way up. We had days where we were down 12, 15% in our commodities. It happens. That's when everybody runs away and you're like, ooh, do I have any money to the side? Obviously, right now they're so far up. Aside from Dolly Varden, I wouldn't be paying attention. Miss Dot, how do you de-risk? You can't when you're down 50 to 80%. Unfortunately, Mrs. Stott, that's a great question, and thank you for being in town for 3+ months with the XP Meteor. You can't. You're already down 1/2 to almost over 3/4. So the best thing you can do is, if you believe in that asset, if you actually believe in it, and you weren't just buying the FUD or the hype, you're down 80%, you would buy a very large amount to bring that average down. So then, when it has that reverse rally, you can either even out, or you can sell it out when you get closer to even, or you're buying it for that next eventual breakout because you bought something that had value. So it's a tough question, though. It's a tough question. That's why it's fun when it's going up. The hardest thing to do is rationalize with your brain that, okay, you know, like we're overextended here. Now I think the hard part's after a few days of red here. What ends up happening? Do we just fall out going into the weekend? Because it is Friday, thinly traded weekend coming up after 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or do we get buyers to come in on a thinly traded weekend, try to manipulate the market up, retest those drop points again? Or do we have a quick flush? I mean, you are legitimately back in no man's land where you do not want to be. If I was not in the market right now, I would not want to try to be buying right now, because that, to me, is showing a very clear rejection. As of right now, I know the 4-hourly is massively oversold, which plays into our favor going forward into November. Daily, still got a lot of room here. I hate to say that, but there is still a lot of room to come down for XRP in the daily, and it just broke bearish recently. Weekly, again, playing in our favor. That weekly, as it continues to move down into the oversold depths of hell, it's a fantastic accommodation. The monthly, towards neutral, but if it breaks neutral, get ready for some shit. Because then we would definitely be testing the lower boundaries for sure. Now let's go back into the MACD, because for some reason it deleted it yesterday and I forgot to put it back on today. But the moving average convergence divergence, and we're going to put this over the top. We like it over the top. Let's see. Will you go back up top? Yeah, there we go. So we put the moving average convergence divergence here. So we can see in the monthly, it's definitely starting to turn down. The weekly, huge flip to the red. We called this 4 weeks ago, or 5 weeks ago, when it first started flipping red, and said this is not good. That led into the broadening wedge perspective, like, hey, we need to come down to that $1.37 area. And then it overextended on some, stayed within on other charts. Now where did it go? Oh, it just... So yeah, that's not good. That weekly crossover wasn't good. It told us that we were going to have some real pain here. Daily time frames really same scenario here. We're really the same story over the top. Bitcoin, I mean, it comes out of this area. Now you're looking at that 92K from that breakdown of the rising wedge. And I set this up in a different way as if it's going to break down the next layer. There's a 98,000 stopgap for Bitcoin. There's a 98K. I better put this up here. There's a stopgap measure at 98K that should reverse us back to 103 to retest that, FYI. So on its way, it might come to 98 range. And then, so if it's bearish, you might get something like this. And I just want to make sure I tell you so that you understand why it stops on a dime. You know, and it might do something like that again. So it's going to retest this upper boundary, and it should get support somewhere around 98, 98.4, somewhere in that range. It's going to get support if there's not a massive flush right away. 98 would be the range. Buying a ton of X. So, Tom, I have a link to send to you. I saw on X something about Ripple buying a ton of XRP. Do you see that? No, I don't see that as bullish at all. All that tells me is the same. I know they're buying a bunch of XRP from the escrow. From the escrow to sell it to institutions. I know that. We already know they're buying it. We seen that in the official documents 3 years ago or 2 years ago. And then they sell it for a different price to the institutions. But I don't understand, like, I'm in a weird perplexed moment here. So many people were so bullish before this pull down that needed to happen, and now everybody just gone so bearish. I feel like now once again I'm preaching to myself of, hey, there's opportunity to pay attention to. We're going, and then it's just. But yeah, that's exactly it. The institutions and the banking cannabis podcast. That's the other end that I didn't get through it yet because I was reading the comments. But that's exactly it. They need that capital. It's not that it's not bullish. It's just telling you their priorities are elsewhere right now than just focusing on just the retail investor or the institutional investor. They're building something deeper. So don't you think when they use this to give out tokens, like, hey, here's your shareholder and blah, 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 you know, they've got to buy it back. That's why I think the escrow dumps are strategic. Hey, we got 1 billion we dump, traditionally lock up 700 to 800 million. We say we're going to release them December of 28, all at once. But all we know is us. We don't know anything else. So, but I think they're building the agenda deep below. That's what's happening with all those escrow. Like, Bitcoin is massively oversold in the daily now. When I say massively, I mean massively. Does the rest leave a lot to be desired? Not as much. The monthly is coming back towards neutral. Weekly is pushing back into a bearish fashion towards the oversold area if it pushes this next layer. I personally want to see 92. And I will personally go liquid again. Not on certain things like XR, but I will go liquid again if this drop confirms below this area. Because then I know I'm going to get about a 20 to 25, maybe even 30% cut here in a quick fashion. But we've got to get the validation here. This is where a lot of people are going to get hung up. Because it went down to 219. Well, now it's railing and trying to hold, it hasn't held the areas, but if it gets above 228, you're starting to be able to push down towards 242 to 246 range. Once you can get on top of that, it gets a little interesting. I just don't want to see people throwing capital away for no reason right now. This is not the time. Right now, this area, you got to get some confirmation. XRP's working on a rejection, maybe. From the initial setup here that we've already pushed down a little bit just so we could see the actual setup that's performing and progressing in front of us. Whoops. I did not know that was still on there drawing these stupid things. But I'm very intrigued by what I'm seeing here. So I said XRP does price fall below $2 and Bitcoin down to 92K. Don't skip or portfolio implications are unavoidable. And I think that's true. Well, I don't trust USDT long-term either. And it's convenient that all of this is happening and we're going to get our second rate cut at the end of October. And just a few short days ago that went unnoticed is the Fed said they're done with quantitative tightening. They've essentially cut off the rest of the 400 and something billion that was left in tightening. And they said they're going to massive expansion of quantitative easing. Like, they've basically said it in their own words, if you just decode it a little bit. So, a lot of things, like right here, you can start to look at it too. Maybe it is forming something here. But I'm just saying, if it breaks out of this to the downside, we are in some downward. It's not going to be pretty for a minute. It already hasn't been pretty for the last 9 months. But yeah, this is absolutely the moment we've been waiting for. And yeah, we're a couple weeks still early. It's only October 17th. Still 2 weeks to Halloween, 3 to 4 weeks until what I've been saying since January, where I thought we were going to get on an explosive move into Q1 and 2 of 26. But what I kept saying in January is, what level does it start from? What level does it start from? It certainly wasn't starting that big run at 350 for XRP. Now, if you got it at $1.30, it feels a little better, doesn't it? But is that the level it starts at, or does it start lower? The only way to have a proper bull season is if you got it by the proper bottom. The problem with buying an elevated bottom, even for the alts, outside of like Chainlink, Bitcoin, Solana, or Bitcoin's not an alt, but you know what I mean. Outside the cryptos of Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum, XRP, Chainlink, AV, and the ones like that, there was a few, but 99.9% never even came out of the bottom. So everybody calling a top and alt season, or this crypto, they're wrong. There has been no cycle. Unless you want to count the top 10 tokens, okay. But outside of that, we haven't had a cycle at all. We had some run-ups from a remarkable 99% sell-off on some tokens that look good. Like, IOTA felt good to buy it at 9 and some change and sell it at 50-something, and then rebuy it 17 or 18 or 19 or 13 or whatever it was, and then have to sell it at 17 and rebuy at 8, 9. But I got no problem continuing to go down that chain. That's why I like the NO.KYC exchange, so I can get in, get out, where they're cheap, where the fees are minute, basically non-existent, like with I like BitUnix still, but because of their separating relationship with the USA as we go forward, if you already have an account or you want to create one, you'll be able to, but it's becoming a little more risky. That's why I use TOOBIT. It's in the pinned comments and video description below. Their fees are non-existent, and I can get in and out during the high times of volatility. They had no issues during that big crash. Zero. And then WeX, same deal. No issues. I buy my IOTA only on WeX because it's in spot. That's the only thing I buy on there. The rest I do on TOOBIT if I'm doing the NO.KYC exchanges. But those are in the comments below. And make sure you follow YouTube, which is also on the pinned comments of this very live. So, oh yeah, defined. I love that. If you invert the chart, it says we haven't topped in alts, but if you turn it around, so if you invert it, you've topped. That means he thinks we put in the lows in 23 at least. I don't, like, again, we have not had any sustainable rally. So if we do break down in a crypto winter, we won't get killed by it. We're just going to sell out after it hits the make it or break it points if that's how you decide to trade. And then you reassert it after it has that 20, 30, 50, in the one case, 65% in 8 hours, unfortunately. For IOTA, WeX. IOTA spot is on WeX. For the rest, I buy it on TOOBIT. It's a little cheaper when you get into the overall predicament. Like if you're a leverage trader and things like that, it's a little cheaper on TOOBIT. WeX is still phenomenal for pricing, I'm just saying. Bitcoin dominance is at 59.76. And that's another gatekeeper. We tested the rising channel, and now we're testing the drop support. So now we have to come back up to the 200 and see if we're going to stay below that. So yeah, there's more pain to come, folks. It's going to keep happening. I can say it, and I'll say it again. It's still early. I'm just blessed that we were able to make a transition in January. Now we've got to figure out if that same transition we made in January, if we're starting to top out in the minors. You know, that's the other part of this equation. As one starts topping out, the other one starts bottoming out. As one starts bottoming out, the other one starts topping out. See what I'm saying here? So the problem with the commodities one is gold and silver is not done yet. We're just getting started. And there's no denying that with our economy in the USA. So it's kind of a catch-22 here. If you want to buy commodities, you're in trouble right now. But if you've been sitting in them since January, you're feeling real good about this pullback right now. Right about now. Yeah, TOOBIT. It's in my pinned comments below. I've been talking about it for even before the drop. But it solidified it with the drop. I like it a lot. TOOBIT. It's on the pinned comments in here. If you want to check it out. Just even in the live. You just click on it. There's a link right up at the top. And then when I do copy trade, you'll be able to be involved with it if you follow my copy trader. That'll happen if we get this next drop. And when I start to feel like we're starting to, it's going to happen. But good morning, 10:55 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Friday, October 17th, 2025. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. Bitcoin bull run is over. Traders say with 50% Bitcoin price crash warning. Oh, you're warning us of a 50% price crash now? Interesting. Interesting. Where was that warning at? 126. We'll see how this plays out. It's going to be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. Ethereum sitting at 3,757, down 3.5% on the day. Is it topping out? Are we going to hold this back test at 35.38? Then the first target we talked about yesterday was coming down to 3,741, which ironically, we're right in that range right now. And then if it breaks that, we know we come down to the 3,500 range. If that's broken the 200-day and the daily, well, that's where the pain really starts. Because then you're going to come search the weekly. And ain't nobody going to want to come search this weekly with me. But that's where we come all the way down to that 2,500-ish level. So if this is early, just understand. If we're early, it doesn't mean that we've topped. It just hasn't begun yet. That's the message. That we haven't topped because we haven't started. Aside from Bitcoin and a few strategically picked and assigned tokens to give the allure, and think about it. Some of the bigger ones like XRP, Solana, Chainlink, Bitcoin, Ethereum, the ones that'll catch your attention on the mainstream are the ones they pumped. The rest of them that you thought we were waiting for, unless you bought them at the market lows before the November breakout, you've been getting kicked around for the last 9 months. Define said, I just want to say, everyone, just remember this time when and if we do get made whole. I'm not saying sell out at 20%, but if you have major gains and full move, don't get great. Yeah, exactly. That's why in January and coming through this whole cycle, I've been saying, please take your profits. I don't care if you keep your initial investment in, but take all the profits out. And now, I mean, but we're starting to point in the direction I like. Like somebody pointed out, the fear and greed index. That is coming down like it needs to. Remember, before the last real big breakout, it went down to 6 in the fear and greed index. 6. Now we're in extreme fear. You buy the fear. Remember, buy fear, sell, or buy the fear, sell the greed. Really buckle down in extreme fear and really, really buckle up when you get into extreme greed, because that's when the best money's made. In extreme greed. Because it's going almost like in a parabolic sense. So we got a lot of stuff going on here. I know. We got a lot of stuff going on in a lot of different sectors. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, buy the fear, sell the greed. And I said at 34, wait until it gets into extreme fear. We're in extreme fear now. And if you go all time, we're not close to the bottom yet, though. We've had some levels of extreme fear. We've come down to the depths. There's 11, there's 9. Back here was the 6. I can get here. 5. August 22nd, 19, we're at 5. Down here we got to 9 and 22. Before the breakout in 24, where were we at? In August, we got down to 26. Yeah, about 26, I want to say. Maybe 20. Might have been a little bit lower. And then we had August. Where's November? This is March. So, I mean, you see how this transcends, but we're not to the bottom here. Yeah, I mean, we've coming down, and we're getting into a much better range. I'm not going to lie about that. I like seeing where we're at now at the 22. It's the lowest we've been in, let's see, what was the lowest we've been this year? We came down to 10 in early February. So we very well could come to retest that low point in the fear and greed. And then it's been pretty steady. Now we've got what looks like a little bear flag ready to come down. It would bring you back down to that, probably sub-digit. So that's the fear and greed index. It is in an inverse head and shoulders as well, it looks like. Bitcoin long to short ratio this morning. Let's go into the 24-hour. Through all exchanges, 51% are short right now. 48% are long. For Ethereum, we've got 51.8% short, 48.17% long. So there's more people going short than long. And XRP, it's 50.65% going short in the daily, 49.62% going long. So yeah, there's more people going short right now than long. Um, 30-minute, I mean, there's not really any divergence at all. More people are short-term bearish, especially by option trading. With the XRP liquidation map, we're gonna have to do this by the monthly, but there's not a lot of liquidation in the zones below until Bitcoin falls out, and you're not gonna see it on these, but Bitcoin needs to fall under 100K into that 95,000 range, and you'll see some fresh liquidity underneath. But we're still pretty far off of there right now. Look at the monthly for XRP. There's no liquidity all the way down to that $1.16 range on that chart, or on this particular diagram they're showing, what just happened. So yeah, there's no liquidity down here at all. To the point that you get down here and you're talking about the thousands. Look, $20,000 in liquidity leverage, 159,000. It's not even worth their time. Unless they're planning on coming right through it, it's not even worth them. It's not even worth going down there at this point. You get far more liquidity over the top, especially when you start to get up towards the higher levels. Let's go into the 1 day now and see what's been created in the short term. Yeah, much more over the top even. Some short-term liquidity. And the small ranges that were formed just in the recent long or short leverage trades. In the weekly. And it's been a long, maybe this is the first time ever since I've seen no liquidity below. Like, this is insane. Look at all this. That's in the thousands. You're not even coming out here for millions. You're coming down here for thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can't find $1 million candle there. Look at this. Have we seen one? Let's see. Oh, $1 million right there at 159. Couple up here. Look at that, though. That's insane. But look at when you come up here. What's the high point here? You got 82. Yeah, but look at the difference, though. Instead of having 400, 500, 600,000 in leverage liquidity, you've got 50, 60, 70, 80, 10, 18, 27, 49, 56, 37, 47 million. You see the difference? There's a lot of liquidity over the top that could get hemorrhaged if it comes back up. But it gets stronger and stronger above if it comes down a little bit farther. Because then more and more people are going to be going short. The more people that go short, the more liquidation there is above when it goes up. And the liquidation, remember yesterday it was 50.3 to 49.7 short versus long. Now it was like 53% short on some of them. This is Coin Ank. COINANK. Coin Ank. I think it does it in a little bit different way, so I do appreciate it. Ooh, let's see the 6-month liquidity on Bitcoin. And sorry, I didn't get to all the comments today. It's just impossible because it's too far behind. Kate, thanks for sending 100 ZARs. I appreciate that super chat. I know I answered that question, but I forgot to thank you for what you sent. That's all I had to see there. Perfect. So I can continue on this line of discussion. Days like today, I feel like a person's name should change to bend over. It just depends. Depends what you perceived on this before it happened. See what I was saying? You got to get under here to bring out some levels of liquidity. So once you get down here, there's some nice levels. So that's what I was trying to point to. There's liquidity down at that 92 rising wedge drop point target. So it's not unfounded that there's targets down there. 3 months in Bitcoin. As we're getting towards closer to the end of this live. Julie's mom's here, so I definitely want to... But you can't even see it here until you get to the 6 months. So remember, if you pull it out into the 6 month, you can see liquidity that supports a drop for Bitcoin to 92K and fills out that rising wedge drop target. Although, if you want to take the expandable rising wedge, if you want to fill it in now, technically it could come all the way to like 62 or maybe 72. But the actual... Tab has crashed. The actual target was 92 for the initial drop out of the short-term rising wedge. There's a much larger one that could come down farther. Tom's Crypto University. Learn a lot. Oh, I love it. I try to teach this. And I like the fact that you don't have to do any kind of financial compensation. You just come in here and learn. I don't hide behind anything except my own ignorance sometimes. But that's not my fault. I don't know I'm ignorant. Look at these ranges. 91,000, 400 million, 500 million almost down here at 91.3. Up here at 92 as it starts a lot. 424 right there. 406 at 93. So if it wants to come down there, definite big range of liquidity. Could be a stopgap measure there too, because we're going to have, at some point it's either going to be 98 or 92. You're going to get another reverse rally. And think about it. Maybe alt season isn't what everybody thinks. Maybe alt season ends up being defined by the fact that, we end up going down another 40% here, and then we have a 5x move or something, and they're looking for alt season to make everybody whole from past cycles. But that's never what I look at. That's why I don't hold cycle to cycle. All I'm looking for is to buy it in a cycle downtrend. And for the alts, there was no reason to buy them when they went up as much as they did. And I feel like a dark horse in the race because I think people get pissed when I say it. Well, if we don't buy it here on these big drops, where do we buy it? On the bigger drop. On the actual drop. That's always been that's what I've always preached. You don't buy the dip just to buy the dip. Because oftentimes when you buy the dip, after a 5, 6, 7, 8, 900% rally, you end up becoming exit liquidity because that dip that is happening now when everybody's saying, oh, it's the dip. No, it's not. That actually needs to happen. We're way overbought. Just like with commodities right now. Do we get buyers to come in the next couple of days, especially Monday and Tuesday, because we're going into the weekend? Or is this the start of a 6-month downturn now or 3-month downturn to where you can find a way to take profits if you've been in since January? And then you have to just ride it out into wait until the next part. I'm not ready to call that yet because I don't think we've topped out. Because reading the chart, you can see the cup and handle. It go way higher. We already have a greenback that is way over leveraged. We sure do. We sure do. Lori, it's hit and miss. People will be happy, especially if they buy the lows and then they can sell out a lot higher. There's no doubt about that. People will get happy. It comes and goes, as we know. Define, thanks for being a very trusted bot in here and in the Telegram. And in times under 6+ months with the XP predictor. Tom does really appreciate the pay it forward. This helps him do this full time for us. Yeah, it does help for sure. You know, you want to have the paid supporters because it helps you fund your passion, so to say. And it's like I don't feel like I have to do this. I get to do this. There's a difference. I get to do this. At first, it was like I have to do this because I have to get this content out to find some more followers. Now, if not another person follows, it doesn't even matter. I've already built a strong enough community that I can talk to these same 47,000 people over and over and over, and I would not get bored. Or have the same. Well, I didn't know there was 150 people in this live. The morning lives are picking up steam. Let me tell you, there's more people in the morning lives now than the 6 o'clock live. Not by a wide margin, but it's impressive to see so many people in here in the mornings. But I'm gonna get going, everybody. I want to go hang out for a minute, and just do what I got to do here before we pick up tea this afternoon. I'll be back before you know it, like Julie said. I'll be back at 6 o'clock, roughly. Sometimes 5, sometimes 6, sometimes 4. It just depends on our son T. But yeah, that's everything. Be blessed, everybody. Oh yeah, the only other thing on the Bitcoin, the XRP Bitcoin pairing, if you're looking for other opportunity, we back tested. Remember we've talked about we never back tested this, and this was a drop point that we talked about at 494 for a long time. And it bounced back up perfectly. Like, these are the kind of clear outs you want to see if you're going to appreciate towards an asset. Still, that golden cross is very much in place in the weekly. But what it did is with that big clearing, it's kept it intact. No one's the wiser. It's back in the formation. This still needs about 2 weeks of pulling down to invalidate this golden cross formation. The 100's about to cross the 200, and how convenient to get another tap right down in that area, right before the crossing, would send the weekly into a very oversold condition. The dailies are, the daily looks like ass. Daily's way overbought, which leads to the thesis that we should come back down towards this 0.0000187 to 2 range, if not melting all the way back down to this bottom support structure, which still would not be out of the question, or even farther. Maybe we come and retap this all the way. But I would definitely start watching it now, because these weeklies are starting to play more in our favor, which hasn't been the case for a while. The monthly, still not looking the most, the healthiest, because it broke bearish, but now it might be heading the neutral area. But that could mean that Bitcoin, and it's, well, I don't know. Bitcoin, it's still, I mean, it seems like we've, at least for the moment, for Bitcoin, need to come down and retest these areas. We got one of two choices. This can continue in a weird ass alt season, like I said, it's going to be a different alt season than we're used to, and it'll remind you more of 2017-18 with all the ups and downs and significant 70 to 80% market up and downs before it had a significant actual increase that stayed forever in the total crypto and all that. It's going to be the similar thing. We're flushing in and out to know if we're going up to the next level of existence for crypto, or if we've overstepped our boundaries, and now with all the government regulation, we've jumped the shark, so to say. At some point, crypto will jump the shark. It's not sound money, no matter what anybody says. So it's just a matter of, can you find the right crypto? Do you know the utility tokens? Do you know the ones that are up to date with the coding? Can you find the ones that are tied in with real world assets? And do you have the ones that central banks, credit unions, and the financial facilities will end up using to be the capital to make them look solvent? If you can figure all of that out, you're going to be fine. If not, you're going to be holding one of the 99%